Do you know the difference between prayer and scientific faith? Napoleon Hill cracked the code on how to make the mind accept even a lie as truth. He called it the chemistry of autosuggestion. If something in your life isn't working right now, the cause isn't bad luck. It's the frequency your brain is broadcasting, and today you're going to learn how to change that frequency. Let me ask you something. Keep your answer to yourself, but be honest. How many times have you tried the law of attraction and it didn't deliver? How many times did you build a vision board? You wrote down your goals, you pinned images to your wall, and nothing shifted. How many times did you try to talk yourself into positivity? You repeated those affirmations over and over and eventually gave up because a voice inside whispered, "Forget it. This is nonsense." Here's what I want you to understand. You didn't do something foolish. You used an incomplete formula. Most people read Think and Grow Rich and grasp the first law. Desire, you must want it. You must want it with burning intensity. Fine, that part sounds easy. Everyone wants something. A better car, more money, the dream of building their own business, freedom. Desire exists in everyone. But desire alone is not enough. Because desire is only raw material, and raw material left unprocessed rots. The tool that processes it is faith. But I'm not going to shout, "Believe in yourself" at you. That phrase is hollow, empty at its core, because it tells you nothing about how to believe. That's exactly what this video is. The answer to the question of how. By the end of this lesson, you will hold a tool in your hands, a mental laboratory, where you will learn to code your mind with information that feels real, even before it becomes real. I call this manufactured belief. Now think about it. If the brain cannot distinguish between imagination and reality, and you convince your brain that the imagined outcome has already happened, what does the brain do? It mobilizes every resource it has to reach that outcome. This isn't a feeling. This is neuroscience. The reticular activating system, the brain's perceptual filter, located in the brainstem, detects what you focus on and pulls matching data from the world around you. Why do you suddenly see your dream car everywhere the moment you decide to buy it? Because your brain's filter locked onto it. So what happens when you aim that filter at wealth, opportunity, and achievement? You begin to notice doors you never saw. You begin to hear signals you never caught, because they were always there. You were simply blind and deaf to them. Faith doesn't heal you. Faith lifts the veil from your eyes. And in this lesson, you will learn step by step how to lift that veil. Are you ready? Good. Then we begin. Here is a painful truth I need to share with you. Logic. Logic is your greatest enemy. Yes, you heard that correctly. That principle of rational thinking, the one school drilled into you, your parents reinforced, society celebrated, is the most powerful chain keeping you from wealth. Now don't misread me. Logic is essential for survival. You use logic when you cross a street. You use logic when you manage a budget. But when you apply logic to dreaming, your dream dies. Why? Because logic only looks backward. Logic references what has already happened. And if your past contains no wealth, no achievement, no version of the life you want, logic tells you this isn't for you. Be realistic. How many times have you heard that phrase? Be realistic. Not everyone can build a business. Be realistic. Your family never had money. Be realistic. Who gets rich in this economy? And you listened to those voices. You absorbed them. You made them your own inner voice. Now, every time you dare to dream, your own mind tells you to be realistic. But understand this. Every great achievement was once considered irrational. Have you heard the name Srinivasa Ramanujan? A boy born into poverty in a small town in India. Virtually no formal education in mathematics. Failed university entrance exams. Was unemployed. And this man became one of the most extraordinary mathematical minds of the 20th century. How? Ramanujan saw mathematics in his dreams. Formulas arrived to him during sleep, and he would write them down when he woke. He said it himself. The goddess Namagiri showed him the equations. Now, what would a logical person say? This man is delusional. Formulas don't come in dreams. The divine doesn't teach algebra. But when Professor Hardy at Cambridge University saw the formulas in Ramanujan's letter, he was stunned, because many of those results represented what European mathematics had labored a century to reach, and some had never been seen at all. Logic told Ramanujan he was a poor village man from India with no credentials. Faith told Ramanujan he was chosen, and the universe was speaking directly to him. Which one won? Faith. Now I'll ask you something, and the question may be uncomfortable. Which voice are you listening to, your logic or your faith? If your answer is logic, then why do your results stay the same? Understand this: logic protects you, but it also imprisons you. Logic keeps you safe within known boundaries, but wealth lives outside known boundaries. Extraordinary outcomes don't come from ordinary thinking, and that's why faith means silencing logic. How? Here's an exercise I call the logic trap breaker. Every time that be realistic voice speaks in your head, stop and ask yourself, is this voice mine, or did someone teach it to me? Most of the time you'll realize it belongs to a parent, a teacher, a friend. It's carrying their fears into your mind. Then ask a second question. Is this voice moving me toward my target or pulling me away from it? If the answer is away, do the opposite of what it says. If logic says don't move, move. If logic says wait, begin now. If logic says this isn't for you, claim it as yours. Because logic is fear wearing a rational disguise. And fear has never led anyone to wealth. Now, I want to share a secret with you. The brain is gullible, yes. The most intricate organ on Earth, 100 billion neurons, trillions of connections, and yet profoundly gullible. Because the brain cannot separate what is real from what is vividly imagined. Hundreds of scientific studies confirm this. Research into neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to rewire itself, demonstrates that whether you physically experience something or imagine it with total intensity, the brain builds similar neural pathways. What does that mean for you? It means you can deceive your brain. Napoleon Hill called this autosuggestion self-programming, directing your own mind. Modern neuroscience calls it neural recoding. They describe the same mechanism, making the brain accept something that hasn't yet occurred as if it already has. Think about this. If a pianist rehearses mentally without touching a single key, do the muscles actually develop? In a study conducted at Harvard University, 2 groups learned piano. The first group practiced physically. The second group only imagined pressing the keys and producing the music. After the same period, identical changes were observed in the motor cortex of both groups. The muscles of the group that only visualized had developed as well. The brain never asked, is this real or imagined? The brain simply received the instruction and executed it. That is your weapon. You can reconstruct yourself by deceiving your brain. Here's how I'll teach you Hill's method in a modern framework. I call it the 3-minute mental fiction routine. Every morning, within the first 5 minutes of waking, do this. First minute, breathe and release tension in your body. Close your eyes. Let thoughts drift without catching any of them. Create only space. Second minute, now project a scene in your mind. But pay attention. Don't watch it like a film from the outside. Live inside it. See yourself having arrived at your goal. Smell that moment. Hear the sounds of that moment. Feel what your hands are holding. Notice the energy moving through your body. The more detailed it is, the more the brain believes it. Third minute, now say this to yourself, and say it even if you don't yet believe it. This is my reality. I am living inside this right now. It has already happened. Then open your eyes. Those 3 minutes are a fiction. You're not yet living in that house. You haven't yet earned that income. You haven't yet reached that freedom. But your brain doesn't know that. And if you repeat this fiction every single day, the brain forms new neural pathways. Those pathways grow stronger, and eventually, that fiction becomes your default mode of thinking. Not I am a failure, but I am already succeeding, operating automatically. This is the hacked brain, and it's a buried truth no one teaches you. Every successful person does this. They just don't call it lying. They call it vision. They call it faith. They call it self-confidence. But the mechanism is identical. Accepting the unreal as real. Now here's a question. If it's this simple, why isn't everyone wealthy? because this practice must be performed every day, and most people quit after 3 days and declare it doesn't work. But the brain needs a minimum of 21 days to form new neural pathways, 66 days to solidify them into a habit. You quit at day 3. That's why the results don't shift. Not because you stopped the exercise, because you abandoned faith at the halfway point. There is an adversary you must recognize. This adversary is always with you, always near. And it whispers even at your strongest moments, but what if it doesn't work? That voice is doubt, and doubt is the poison of faith. Fear, I can understand. Fear serves a biological function. It protects you from danger. But doubt is different. Doubt is slow-acting venom. It seeps in gradually, and before you realize it, your faith has rotted from within. Picture a gardener. He's planted a seed. He waters it every day. He shields it from harsh conditions and waits. 1 week passes, no sprout. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, still nothing visible. And the gardener begins to doubt. Maybe the seed was dead. Maybe the soil is wrong. Maybe the season is off. So what does he do? He digs up the soil to inspect the seed, and in doing so, snaps the fragile roots. The seed dies. But if he had waited just 1 more week, the sprout would have broken through. Doubt is digging up the soil before the season arrives. You do this too. You commit to your target. You practice the exercises. You feel energized for a while. Then when results don't appear on schedule, doubt sets in. What if this one fails too? What if I'm wasting my effort? What if everyone else was right and I was wrong? The moment you feed that doubt, faith corrodes. Here is something critical. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same room. They cannot coexist simultaneously. You either fear or you believe. You cannot carry both. This is a choice, and you make it every day, every hour, sometimes consciously, most of the time without realizing it. Let me share something with you. Everyone has a midnight moment. That moment when everything goes dark, hope seems absent, the body feels heavy, the mind is clouded, and the heart is exhausted. I've lived through those moments. In them, a person starts to wonder, maybe I wasn't built for this. Maybe I should accept my circumstances. Maybe an ordinary life is what I'm meant for. And in those moments, doubt speaks with its greatest force. But here's what I've learned. Midnight is immediately before the dawn. The darkest moment is the one closest to the sunrise. If you can endure that instant, if you can silence doubt for just 1 more minute, what you see the next day can be entirely different. While doubt says quit, faith says take 1 more step. Which one will you follow? Here's a method for confronting doubt. I call it the doubt journal. Every night before sleep, write down the doubt voices you heard that day. Write them exactly as they came. What if this project collapses? What if my resources run dry before I gain traction? What if people mock me? Write them all. Then beside each one, ask this single question. Is this thought a fact or a fear? You'll mark most of them as fear, because things that haven't happened yet are not facts. They're possibilities. And possibilities can be selected. Will you select the fear possibility or the success possibility? It's that straightforward and that demanding, because the brain is wired to hunt for danger. It is programmed to rehearse worst-case scenarios. That's why doubt comes naturally, and faith requires effort. But effort directed toward what is worthy is always worth it. Have you ever noticed that truly successful people appear slightly unhinged to others? Before their companies exist, they say, I'm constructing an empire. When their pockets are empty, they say, money is not my obstacle. While everyone around them laughs, they smile and keep moving. From the outside, they look disconnected from reality. Dreamers, maybe a little arrogant, but look closer, they see what others cannot. I call this paranoid optimism. Ordinary paranoia means detecting threats that don't exist, seeing enemies around every corner, danger in every shadow. Paranoid optimism is the opposite, seeing opportunities that don't yet exist, finding a ladder in every obstacle, finding a seed in every crisis. Consider Ludwig van Beethoven. At 30, he began showing signs of hearing loss. By 35, he was nearly completely deaf. For a musician, this is the equivalent of death. But Beethoven produced his greatest masterpieces after losing his hearing. The Ninth Symphony, one of the most magnificent musical works in human history, was composed in total deafness. Imagine not hearing the notes, not hearing the orchestra, not hearing your own playing, and composing a symphony. How? Beethoven heard the music inside his mind. He could see the invisible sound. Even when his ears had gone silent, his inner world could still hear. That is faith. While the external world tells you this is impossible, your inner world says, I have already done this. And you trust your inner world. Now, most people have heard of visualization. Close your eyes, imagine your goal. Simple enough. But that description is incomplete. Most people practice visualization incorrectly. They watch it like a film, observing themselves from outside, like a spectator. That approach doesn't work. Real visualization must be immersive. You are not in the scene. You are the scene. Try it now. Think about the moment you reach your goal, but don't observe from outside. Live it from within. What are your eyes seeing? What are your ears picking up? What does your skin feel? What is your nose detecting? What do you taste? Activate all 5 senses. If your goal is purchasing a home, feel your hand on the front door handle, the coolness of the metal, the weight of the door. Open it. Step inside. Feel your feet making contact with the floor. Breathe in the smell of the space. Maybe fresh wood. Maybe clean air. Look at the walls. Look at the furnishings. Look through the window. What do you see? This is your home. You are inside it right now. This is your reality. Practice this visualization at minimum twice daily, once when you wake, once before you sleep. Your brain will begin encoding this experience as factual. And what the brain encodes as fact moves toward manifestation because the brain wants to align its internal reality with its external conditions. It is uncomfortable with inconsistency. If you are wealthy on the inside, you cannot tolerate poverty on the outside. That tension compels action. People who see the invisible create the invisible. So can you. Now we need to confront something difficult. Environment, the people who love you and simultaneously drain you. Everyone's life contains frequency disruptors. They aren't necessarily bad people. They may genuinely care for you, but unknowingly they consume your faith. Who are they? The friend who tells you to be realistic, the elder relative who warns you against risk, the acquaintance who looks at you as if to say, who do you think you are? The partner who worries endlessly about what could go wrong. These people don't want to break you, they want to protect you. But their protection functions as poison. There is a concept known as the law of averages. A person's income, habits, and thinking patterns reflect the average of the 5 individuals they spend the most time with. This isn't only true for money, it's equally true for faith. If your 5 closest companions think in limited terms, you will begin thinking in limited terms. If they operate from fear, you will begin operating from fear. If they have surrendered their aspirations, you will begin surrendering yours. Frequency is contagious. Napoleon Hill called this the mastermind, an alliance of minds pursuing the same destination with unified belief. Here is an assignment. Identify the frequency disruptors in your life. Don't judge them. Simply become aware. Then ask yourself, does time with this person strengthen my faith or weaken it? If the answer is weaken, create distance. This doesn't mean abandoning them. You can continue to love them, but stop sharing your beliefs and goals in their presence. Guard that territory. Simultaneously, seek frequency amplifiers, people who believe in your destination. Perhaps they are fighting for their own goals. Perhaps they are mentors. Perhaps they are authors. Perhaps they are podcasters. Expose yourself to elevated frequencies for at minimum 30 minutes daily. Read accounts of those who succeeded. Listen to content that sharpens your resolve. Speak with those walking a parallel road. Your brain feeds on its surroundings. You have the power to choose those surroundings. And sometimes, solitude is the superior choice. If no one in your environment can support your vision, choose to stand alone. A crowded but corrosive environment is less valuable than a solitary but clean one. History's greatest creators, deepest thinkers, and most daring builders all passed through seasons of solitude. Solitude isn't something to fear. It is the period when your internal faith stands without external crutches, and that is precisely when faith grows most powerful. Separate from those pulling you downward, move toward those lifting you upward. And if necessary, walk alone. Because walking alone toward the right destination is always more valuable than walking in the wrong company toward nowhere. Now we arrive at the hardest territory. We're going to talk about catastrophe. The moment everything collapses, the moment resources are exhausted, the moment everyone disappears, the moment hope registers at zero. Because that moment will arrive, I won't deceive you. I'm not promising this path will be smooth. In fact, there will be moments when everything goes in reverse, perhaps more than once. And in those moments, what will you do? Faith is effortless when things are working. Anyone can stay optimistic on a sunny day, but genuine faith is tested in the storm. Consider Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who was taken to Nazi concentration camps. His family was killed. Everything was stripped from him. For years, he endured conditions that stripped away human dignity. Death waited outside the door every single day. And in that place, Frankl discovered something. The line he placed in his book, "Everything can be taken from a person except one thing: the freedom to choose one's own response to any given circumstance." In the darkest moment of the camp, Frankl chose to believe. What did he believe? That his suffering carried meaning, that this experience was forging him into a more powerful human being, that one day he would carry this experience to the world. And it happened. The notes he wrote in the camp became a book that entered the canon of world literature. He founded an entire school of psychotherapy, logotherapy. He touched the lives of millions. The catastrophe didn't destroy him. The catastrophe shaped him. Napoleon Hill speaks of a principle. Every failure carries within it the seed of an equivalent or greater success. When you encounter that sentence, don't read it as a motivational quote and move on. This is a law, a universal mechanism. Every collapse contains the potential for a rise. Every door that closes opens another. Every loss creates the ground for a gain. But to see this, your eyes must be trained by faith. Let me give you a concrete example. Consider a man who, at 40, is dismissed from the company where he gave 20 years. In the same month, his marriage ends. No savings. Experience that doesn't transfer easily to other fields, the years advancing. Logic says, it's over, too late, accept this. But this man refused to accept it. On the day he was dismissed, he made a decision. This is not a catastrophe, this is an opening. For 20 years I was confined to that company. Now I am free. What did he do? He launched the project he had postponed for years, always telling himself, I'll start once things are stable. A small consulting firm. The first year was difficult. The second year was harder. But in the third year, he was earning 3 times what the company had paid him, and he was his own authority. The catastrophe rescued him. But only those who can believe during catastrophe will ever see that. Failure will reach you too. That's not a threat. It's a certainty. And when it does, you will face 2 choices. Say, everything is finished and collapse. Or say, everything is just beginning and transform. Decide now which choice you will make. Because when you're inside the storm, there won't be time to deliberate. Fire melts gold, but also purifies it. You will be tested, but you will not be consumed. If you believe, now hear me clearly on something. Thinking alone will not make you wealthy. Yes, you heard that right. Throughout this session, I've described the power of faith, neuroplasticity, visualization, autosuggestion. All of it is real. All of it functions. But one element is missing: action. Faith begins in thought, but is proven in action. Imagine telling a pilot, I believe I can fly this plane. And the pilot replies, fine, belief is enough. Take a seat and believe. Would the plane fly? No, because belief doesn't replace doing. Belief is the preparation for doing. Napoleon Hill states it directly. Faith produces action. Faith without action is dead faith. Most people wait for the perfect moment. When conditions align, then I'll begin. Let me accumulate a bit more capital, then I'll invest. Let me study a little longer, then I'll take the step. The perfect moment doesn't exist. It will never exist. Conditions will never be precisely right. There will always be something missing. Always a risk. Always a reason to hesitate. And if you wait for the perfect moment, that moment will never arrive. Faith is jumping before you see where you'll land, moving in the dark before you know where your foot will fall. The choice is yours. But let me say one more thing about action. Most people misunderstand it. They picture action as large, dramatic moves, launching a company, making a major investment, radical transformation. No. Action is micro-movement. Great achievements are the sum of small, consistent steps. If you advance 1% every day, by the end of a year, you have advanced 365%. Does that seem modest? There's a principle called the compound effect. Small movements grow over time into something enormous. But most people expect an avalanche on day one. They expect a miracle by the end of the first week. And when they don't see it, they say it isn't working and walk away. Those who walk away lose. Those who remain win. It really is that straightforward. Here's an illustration. Picture a writer who commits to just 500 words per day. 500 words, that's all. Not even a full page. Perhaps 15 or 20 minutes. Modest, right? But at the end of a year, that writer has produced 182,500 words. That's the volume of 3 novels. 3 novels from 20 minutes a day. This is the secret of action, not magnitude. Consistency. Apply the same principle. Divide the path to your goal into 1,000 small steps and take 1 step every day. Just 1. Some days you will not want to take that step. You'll be exhausted. You'll have lost momentum. You'll tell yourself, not today, tomorrow. Take it anyway, even on those days. Because faith is not constructed on easy days. Faith is built on hard ones. Every time you say, I don't want to, but I'm doing it anyway, faith gains one more layer of strength. And one day you'll look back and see a fortress behind you, built brick by brick. That fortress is the physical evidence of your faith. Now let me bring you to a final concept. I call it the blind leap. A moment will arrive in your life, perhaps it's already here when everything is uncertain. You cannot see what lies ahead. You don't know the outcome. There is no guarantee. In that moment, you have 2 options. 1, wait, gather more information, conduct more analysis, prepare further. Or 2, leap. Most people select the first option because it feels secure. But understand this, option 1 is actually the choice to do nothing. Waiting isn't passive. Waiting is an active decision in the wrong direction. While you wait, time moves, opportunities close, energy depletes, and worst of all, faith erodes. Because faith demands movement. Faith dies in stillness. The blind leap is frightening. I know. Stepping into darkness, not knowing where you'll land, goes against every instinct. But consider this. Every significant step you've ever taken in your life was a blind leap. Your first job application, your first serious relationship, your first major decision. You didn't know the outcome in any of those moments, and yet you leaped, and you arrived here. Now the time for the next leap has come. You already know what it is. Something inside you is telling you right now, that thing you've been postponing, that step you've been afraid to take, that move you've been saying when the time is right. The time is right now. After this session ends, leap. Here's a question, and it will sting. Why aren't you living the life you want? Before you defend yourself, stay with it. Because if you're not living the life you've envisioned, if you're going to work each morning out of obligation rather than desire, if you're calculating how to make it to the end of the month, then relative to your actual potential, you are not living at full capacity. And the reason is not luck, not the economy, not the government, not your upbringing. The reason is your mind, and more specifically, your logic. That mechanism you're proud of, I think rationally, the one you believe makes wise decisions. That very mechanism is the most powerful shackle holding you in place. Before we part, I want to show you the complete picture. Napoleon Hill studied the world's most accomplished individuals for 20 years, conducted hundreds of interviews, took thousands of pages of notes, and from that work extracted a formula. The second law of that formula is faith. But faith doesn't stand alone. The first law is desire. The third is autosuggestion. The fourth, specialized knowledge. The fifth, imagination, and it continues. Each law is constructed upon the previous one. Think of it as a pyramid. If the foundation is unstable, every layer above it collapses. Today you studied the second level, the faith level. But this level rests on the desire beneath it and will be fortified by the autosuggestion above it. In the next session at Napoleon Hill Philosophy, we work through the third law, autosuggestion. The language of the commands you give yourself, how to speak in a way the subconscious can receive, why affirmations fail for most people, and how genuine self-programming is performed. That lesson will be the water that feeds this faith. You planted the seed today. In the next session, you will water it. And a watered seed produces a sprout. But right now, I need something from you. Go to the comments and answer this question. What is your single greatest faith barrier? Is logic stopping you? That be realistic voice? Is it doubt, the but what if it fails whisper? Is it your environment, the people pulling you down? Or fear, the fear of failure? Or perhaps even the fear of success? Which one? Write it, because the moment you write it, you've named it. And what you name, you gain authority over. What stays in darkness grows. What is brought into light diminishes. Writing your comment is bringing that barrier into the light. One more thing. I read every comment at Napoleon Hill Philosophy, every single one. And what you write may become the subject of a future session. Your obstacle may be the obstacle of thousands of others, and when you name it, you may be opening a door for all of us. Finally, one request. Someone came to mind while you were in this session. I know they did. Someone you thought, I wish they could see this. Maybe a friend navigating a hard stretch. Maybe a sibling who surrendered their dreams. Maybe someone who's lost faith in themselves. That person exists. And you can make a choice right now. You can send this to them. Maybe you'll hesitate. Maybe it feels awkward to share something like this. Send it anyway. Because sometimes a single video shifts someone's entire trajectory. Sometimes the right message meets the right moment, and you can create that meeting. All it takes is pressing share. Picture them in the dark right now, wrestling with doubt, telling themselves, I can't do this. And you can send them a light. That light might be the only one shining for them at this hour. Send it. Who knows, years from now they may come back to you and say, do you remember that video? It changed everything for me. Thank you. Imagine that moment, and now take one step to make it real. Share this. The universe gives to those who give. This isn't metaphor. This is the nature of faith. When you share, when you give, when you extend, you broadcast a frequency. That frequency is the frequency of abundance, and abundance draws abundance. Hands that hold tightly remain empty. Hands held open fill up. Now, go write your comment. Send this to that person. And tomorrow morning, do the 3-minute exercise. Close your eyes. See your goal. Live inside it. Tell your mind, this is my reality. Do it every day. 21 days, 66 days, 100 days. Then return to this video. Remember where you started. And see where you've arrived. On that day, your belief will come not from books, not from videos, but from your own experience. And that experience will be a treasure no one can ever take from you. We'll meet in the next session at Napoleon Hill Philosophy. The third law awaits, the dark art of autosuggestion. Prepare yourself. Because what you're about to learn will alter the entire trajectory of your life. This is the path, not the path of the comfortable, the passive, or the waiting. The path of those who decide before the evidence arrives, before the results appear, before anyone else believes that their outcome is already written. Every law Napoleon Hill uncovered points to a single truth. The external world is a mirror of the internal one. Change what lives inside you, and the outside has no choice but to follow. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not the exception to these laws. You are exactly who these laws were written for. The question was never whether wealth, purpose, and mastery are available to you. The question is whether you are willing to do the daily, invisible, unglamorous work of rewiring the mind that stands between you and all of it. Now you know how. The only thing left is the decision. Make it, and make it today.